Chicago Sun-Times critic Roger Ebert wrote that the message of this film is baseball is purely and simply a matter of divine intervention. Vincent Canby of the New York Times said that, though entertaining in short stretches, this film has no recognizable character of its own. And James Berardinelli of Real Views called it arguably the best baseball movie ever made. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of The Natural.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to Ruined Childhoods. My name's Dan, and with me is my brother John. How's it going, John?
It's going great, Dan. How are you?
I'm fabulous.
Seen any good movies lately?
Oh, well, let's see. Have I seen any good movies lately? No. You?
Yeah, I have.
What have you seen?
I wasn't asking you just so that I would get to talk about my own, movie viewing history, but here we are.
But talk about it, because I need, it's like, for me, as I've discussed recently, my movie watching lately is like, there's always something else going on.
Yeah.
So I need a minute. I wasn't prepared to answer that question because I need a minute to think back, because I know I had some movie on. I watched the entire movie. I can't remember what it was. I watched most of, was it Dressed to Kill?
Really?
Was it the one with Michael Caine, the Brian De Palma with Michael Caine? Michael Caine.
Yeah,
we're not on the trip.
I don't think that I've seen that, actually.
I've just kind of I think I have a new, for a long time, I did not have an appreciation of De Palma outside of a few of his films, like Carrie and The Untouchables.
I'm not a huge, or I've always thought of myself as not a huge De Palma fan because I'm not a huge Scarface fan. But then
Right.
I think about things like Phantom of the Paradise, and I'm just like,
Right.
that's pretty great.
Raising
and
Cain.
Blowout with John Travolta.
Oh, you know what
That's
funniest...
De Palma, I think.
Can we talk about that? Because that's a movie, if I don't know how many times I have started that movie.
Uh-huh.
But it's a lot. I can tell you how many
really
times
good.
I've finished it is none. And it has nothing to do with how good. It's just for some reason, it doesn't click with me. There's something, I don't know what it is. It is a really well-made movie, and Travolta's really good. Nancy Allen.
Travolta's really good. It's a really great, it's a thriller.
Yeah.
It's about a guy who, and there's some wacky stuff in there because he's, a sound designer for a schlocky horror production company.
Right.
And it's, and because he's trying to get atmospheric sound for a particular film that he's working on, he witnesses a murder or the disposal of a body, and because he was recording stuff, he has this evidence, and it's really thrilling. It's a thriller, as I said.
Yeah,
it should be thrilling. And I feel like John Travolta was really great in it. It was, still pretty early Travolta, so
and
really
that's another thing,
get
is
some good stuff.
I mean, underestimated is Brian De Palma's role, because in Travolta's career, because Travolta was in Carrie. I don't know if that was his first movie. It very well might have been. But De Palma had his little crew, and it was Travolta, Nancy Allen. I think he was dating. I remember watching a documentary. I think it was the De Palma documentary, but it was just kind of I think Nancy Allen and Amy Irving were they were one was dating Spielberg, one was dating De Palma, and I think because he cast Nancy Allen a lot, and I don't know, I think in Blowout she kind of fits fits the role.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I have a Nancy Allen thing, and like sometimes her performance in RoboCop is just a little too like, hey Murphy, like, let's get you back up to shape.
Right.
It's a little much for me, and I find her the same. But like everything in the De Palma thrillers is a little much, so she fits.
Yeah. Well, all I'll say is it's too bad that it doesn't click with you. I've found that it's a really rewarding film.
I've tried so many times, including recently. So it's Brian De Palma. It's not you, it's me. No, I have there's other De Palma movies that I keep wanting to go back to. Snake Eyes is one of them, just because it's fun. It's you're following Nicolas Cage around, and he's kind of like doing the Nick Cage thing.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a movie that I had on recently, and oh geez, what else? You know what I've been watching bits and pieces of? The Principal with James Belushi and Lou Gossett Jr.
Wow. Yeah. I can vaguely picture like the poster.
Yeah, exactly. It's like them looking out the like broken window of a classroom.
Yeah.
Like one of them's got a bat. But I've kind of just been watching that in like bits and pieces, like, at night after I finish like doing whatever I'm working on. Just like, all right, I watch something stupid for a few minutes. And
Dan, it's interesting that you just mentioned the idea of one of them holding a bat. The other day I was in my car and I see this guy running across the street, very regular looking dude in a very chill neighborhood. And he was running up to a taxi cab holding up a baseball bat. And I was just thinking, like, do people really have baseball bats at the ready to like threaten somebody with or to scare off a thief? I don't have do I need a baseball bat? Do you have a baseball bat?
Yes. John, I kid you not. So we have, and it's not, I mean, it wasn't bought for that purpose, but there was one night where like, it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. It's about a year ago. And there's a bang on the door in the middle of the night. And like, Alicia, my wife, gets up and, I think our daughter, Chloe, woke up from it. By the time I was able to like, get downstairs, they were gone. And so I looked at, we had the security camera up front and looked at it, but I went and it was, and like, I definitely took a bat and was looking, because I couldn't tell the age. I mean, it turned out these were like middle school kids.
Right.
So like, had I found them, I hope I would not have used the bat.
Oh, no. Of course.
I would not have used the bat, but I definitely had, and it was the bat that we had bought for Chloe the month that she wanted to get into baseball. And so it's like not a full-size bat. It's like, because she was, I don't know, like 6. So it is, but that makes it really convenient to wield as a weapon. It's less cumbersome than a full-size bat. So of course, had I gotten into an altercation, I would have been able to be much more swift in my movements with it.
Of course.
Like twirling it like I pretty much imagined it like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the original one.
Oh, because Casey Jones has the baseball bat.
Yeah, except I'm picturing it more like the like Raphael.
Got it.
Who's the turtle that's a bit sullen in it? He's kind of sulky and.
Yeah, I think that's Raphael.
That was Raphael. Yeah. So there's like a part where he goes out and he's just like he just gets into a fight.
I think that it's like implied that maybe he sleeps with April O'Neil. Like there's something. I can't remember.
Turtles in Time? I didn't see that one. So Secret of the Ooze?
Oh boy.
Vanilla Ice is performing and
and he's just like, shh. We can do
you
got this, you and me. And Yeah, that's the secret. But you know, really could have had a perfect segue when talking about baseball bats.
Yes,
But
yes.
I did want to share an endorsement for a couple of movies that I did just recently see. Last night at my theater, we presented a documentary called The First Step, which is all about Van Jones and his quest to pass a bipartisan bill for prison reform. Not a really fun topic for us to be discussing, but it was a really great documentary, and I had a really great time with the producer, Lance Kramer. He was out for it, and so that was pretty great.
Lance
and
Kramer.
Then,
what else has he? I feel like I know that name.
I actually don't know. I think that there are other Lance Kramers.
I mean, I'm sure somewhere
Out there, but
underneath the same sky.
Yeah, I don't know. City of Trees is one from 2015.
No, I don't know that one. Anyway, not important. Not important right now. Not important. But
not
so
important.
That's good. But what's important is prison reform.
Yeah, that is important. But I will also give another endorsement for a movie that I saw the other day that is out in theaters now called Amsterdam, directed by David O. Russell. And it's great. I'd say it's like David O. Russell, I feel like, had a few, Joy was kind of a womp womp. I mean, yes, there were some critically acclaimed components to it, but how many times have people watched Joy since it came out? Yeah. So, and of course, Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle had their notoriety, but I feel like Amsterdam, and I got to say, like, I think that John David Washington and Chris Rock both add an element to it that you don't typically see in a lot of David O. Russell movies. I loved Christian Bale's performance. I thought he was great. Margot Robbie was really fantastic and brought a new energy that, like, I think that he was trying to capture with Jennifer Lawrence in a few of those movies. And, clearly the critics and the award voters agreed that she was a good fit for that. But I feel like Margot Robbie in this role was really perfect. And it's one where, like, it could have very easily been Jennifer Lawrence just out of ease and comfort. But, going with Margot Robbie was a really good choice. She's great. The cast is really stacked. You got Rami Malek, Anya Taylor-Joy, Taylor Swift.
John, Timothy, we've got some Rune childhood favorites. I saw that. I was looking at the cast list because we're probably going to go see it. I don't think we can go see it this weekend because I volunteered to chaperone the homecoming dance. At work. So, but we are planning on going to see Amsterdam either this weekend or next. So I was just like, I was curious because I'm like, man, you see like the little thumbnail of the poster and it's like, there's a lot of names. I can't understand them. But
yeah, Timothy Oliphant,
Michael Shannon,
Mike Myers.
Yes.
They are a little duo that's really funny.
Wait, what? Michael Shannon and Mike Myers together?
Yes.
I might have to.
They're great.
I don't
Timothy
know if I can wait a
Oliphant
week.
is in a role where you wouldn't even recognize that it's him, which I think is kind of a waste of Timothy Oliphant, but he's fantastic. And you also have some people who you might not recognize in there in pretty prominent roles, which is great. But ultimately, it's a really good time. It's a very fascinating story. That's another one of his, like, this is kind of a true story things.
It seems a bit Coen-esque, just from the.
It is very Coen-esque, but there are moments that have some of that David O. Russell style of humor, and something that I was, and this, you can listen back to our Flirting with Disaster episode if you want to hear us talk more about David O. Russell. But there was something that I had kind of noticed that really is in a lot of David O. Russell's movies. I feel like maybe less so with like The Fighter or Joy, but
Right.
it's one of those, he's one of those directors who has these stories that are about, you know, people who are unlikely matches for each other teaming up. And you see it in I Heart Huckabees.
Right.
You know, you see it a lot
Three
in Flirting with
Kings.
Disaster. Yes, of course, you see it in Three Kings, people who are matched up with each other because of the way
of
that the military
circumstance.
works.
Yeah.
Out of circumstance. And yeah, a lot of, and actually in Amsterdam, this isn't giving anything away, but, you know, people are matched together because of military ties. And it's really fascinating the way that he is able to let these characters complement each other in really fantastic ways, and that's what really drives the energy of the film forward. And it's a really fantastic thing to watch in this. And yeah, highly recommend it. It's really great, and just amazing performances, great writing, great directing. That says, Dan, do people really use baseball bats to ward off thieves and no goodniks? Yes, John, they do. Well, do you have a bat called Wonder Boy?
No, John, I don't, but you know who does? Roy Hobbs.
See, we got there.
Yes, we made it. We made it.
Dan,
Yeah.
had you seen The Natural before?
I had at some point. I have no idea when. I definitely didn't see it in the theater. I have no, like, I feel like I saw it at some point in my teens, maybe. Like, it's a movie you heard about.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's your impression of The Natural if, like, you see the poster or it comes up somehow?
Well, okay, so I guess the thing I'm going to answer your question by not answering your question. What I think one of the iconic images that you associate with The Natural is the ball smashing the lights and the scoreboard.
Sure, yeah.
So it's like that's what I think. But I mean, when you see the poster of The Natural, you're like, oh, Robert Redford is dissolving, and he's just standing there, and it's kind of I liked it better when I saw it when I was younger. I remember that. I know that.
Okay.
So I don't know if that is as an answer to your question.
No, I mean, yeah, sure.
What would I think? What would I think now if I saw The Natural? Minor Redford.
Well, okay.
If I saw the
think
poster.
I think that what I mean is, like, when I think about the movie The Natural, which I hadn't seen before just this past week, I think that what came to mind was, like, it was one of those crucial baseball movies of the 80s and I'd say and 90s that, you know, kind of goes in there, you know, because that's the time of, like, Bull Durham and Field of Dreams.
Eight Men Out.
I would even lump in
Major
like
League.
Major League.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And even though Major League is, you know, certainly a different tone than the other ones. But like,
yes, though there's definitely there's a similar vibe in The Natural.
Well,
like,
I mean, The Natural,
not vibe, but a plot.
The
similar.
Natural, yeah, The Natural and Major League have, essentially one very similar plot line.
Right. Yeah. And although I like, there really isn't much to the baseball scenes in The Natural. And
no, because people either hit a home run or they get struck out or they, you know, goof around in the field and knock into each other, or, you know, there's not a whole lot of baseball in it.
Right. So, and I think I just have trouble. Yes.
No, what do you have trouble with?
Oh, sorry. Your finger went up. I have trouble, or I had trouble with this time, like, caring really that much. And I was like, so this guy is just like, he's the ideal man, basically. He's Superman. He survives a gunshot to the gut.
Let's synopsize.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a boy, Roy Hobbs had a dream. He wanted to be the most famous baseball player in the country. And he worked hard to get there, practicing with his father near constantly. And several years later, Roy got called up to try out with the Cubs, which inspired him to propose to his lifelong gal pal, Iris. After a literal and figurative roll in the hay, Roy took off on a train headed to Chicago. Along the way, he meets one of baseball's biggest stars, the Whammer, who is unimpressed by Roy. On a brief stopover, a wager is placed that Roy can't get 3 strikes past the Whammer. After wowing the audience, including famed sports writer and cartoonist Max Mercy, Roy continues on his journey and has officially caught the eye of Harriet Bird, a mysterious vixen who Roy finds quite intriguing. But when she invites him to her hotel room one day, Harriet shoots Roy and leaves him for dead as she meets her own destiny by defenestration. 16 years later, Roy is finally back in the majors. It turns out that the bullet only injured him, but caused a major malfunction to his self-esteem. Essentially, Roy vanished for the entire time and only later began to try his luck in baseball once again. This time, he's been placed with the New York Knights, but since he's considerably older, the team manager, Pop Fisher, writes Roy off as an insult by the team's majority owner, the Judge. The Judge is trying to get the team to fail so that he can get the remaining ownership stake from Pop. But despite Pop's aversion to Roy, he lets him step in to hit, resulting in a home run that knocks the cover off the ball entirely. You see, Roy uses a bat that he made when he was a kid called Wonder Boy. He carved it from a tree that had been struck by lightning on the day of his father's death. This hit gets the attention of the entire league and the front pages of every newspaper. I guess the 30s were a slow news decade. The Judge offers Roy $5,000 to help him achieve his goal of ruining the season, but Roy refuses. This also upsets local bookie Gus Sands. Gus has been placing major bets against Roy and the Knights that Roy is now disrupting. A winning streak commences now that Roy is at bat. The entire team's morale is up too. But then Roy meets Pop's niece, Memo Paris, which may as well be George Glass. Memo is also Gus's gal, but they seem to be in an open relationship. Memo and Roy begin to date, and his performance in the field goes down as his performance in the bedroom goes up. But that all comes to a screeching halt when he spots his old gal pal, Iris, and she appears in the stands. They reconnect, and he finds out that he got her pregnant, literally their first time having sex ever. And as much as he wants to pick up where they left off, Iris sends him on his way. That's when the Knights are having fun at a team party, and Roy is poisoned by Memo. He survives, but he's sent off to recover in a maternity ward for some reason. After a losing streak without Roy, they have one last chance to win and take it all. Roy defies the doctor's orders and does his best to play. At the game, Roy hits a foul ball and splits Wonder Boy, but the Bat Boy brings him a bat that they made together, and he hits a championship-winning home run, breaking the lights. Roy and Iris get back together, and he is united for the first time with his son. I missed a whole lot of stuff in there, Dan, but that's because there's so much that goes on in this damn movie. Didn't even talk about the baseball player that he replaced who dies suddenly. Michael Madsen.
A young Michael Madsen, once again, who was Memo's boyfriend.
Right.
First, I guess,
yes,
or I guess she was helping because Bump that's the guy,
right? Michael Madsen's
right, like he was taking the bribes to help throw the games, yeah. So
essentially, to kind of fill in some of the blanks, Gus had placed a bet on, or I should say, against Roy. In that when he threw the 3 strikes against the Whammer. So that's why Gus has a personal vendetta against him. And what?
And am I mistaken in saying that Gus had him shot by Harriet?
Oh, yeah. Gus had him shot by Harriet.
Yes.
And Gus is also having Memo try and kill him this time around.
Yeah.
So Gus essentially has the one woman at a time who's just at his beck and call to do whatever.
It's like a James Bond movie, but instead of James Bond, they got like I was about to say James Blonde.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm acknowledging.
So just
awful.
real quick. Robert Redford is Roy Hobbs. I hope that's obvious. Robert Duvall is Max Mercy, and I didn't talk too much about him in this, but he's the sports writer, and the entire time he's, I think he's like with Gus.
Yeah,
he's like buddies with Gus, and surely they have some sort of like deal struck up for his sports writing and something else, and and until he knows that Roy is the guy who he met when he pitched the Strikes Against the Whammer, he's constantly like, how do I know you? So anyway, that's Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall's been coming up a lot recently on our podcast. We have Newsies. I feel like he's been making a lot of appearances.
Robert Duvall does not stop work. I mean, he might have stopped working like recently, but Robert Duvall did not stop working for a long time. Robert Duvall pops up. Gone in 60 Seconds. There's Robert Duvall.
Hey, Robert Duvall?
Days of Thunder. There's Robert Duvall. The Natural. There. True Confession. And I'm not complaining. Like, Robert Duvall's awesome.
Yeah. Glenn Close plays Iris. Kim Basinger is Memo. Wilford Brimley is Pop, and boy is he great.
Yes. He and Richard Farnsworth, when they're doing the little name that tune.
I know Richard Farnsworth and Wilford Brimley are such a great pair. Barbara Hershey is Harriet. Robert Prosky is the judge. You would remember Robert Prosky from Mrs. Doubtfire as Jonathan Lundy. We have Joe Don Baker as the Whammer. Michael Madsen as Bump Bailey,
who's really the Whammer, and they're not even trying to hide it. Like is Babe Ruth. Yeah.
It is so like he looks exactly like Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
So it's a great cast. But it's a really
shout out to another cast member, Mike Starr, New Jersey's own Mike Starr, who's also on the team. Mike Starr is another one of those guys where, it's that guy.
Hey, it's that guy. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, used to see him at the Dunkin' Donuts.
So this is one of those movies where it is too fast at times, where it feels like it skips over things. Like when Bump dies, he crashes through like the stands in the outfield, and then you just see a newspaper headline that says Bump is dead.
It's like funny.
This movie has so many newspaper headlines to help you get from like point A to point B. I need to go back and count how many like front page papers there are. There is a front page article about how Roy sees a woman in the crowd and gets a home run after not doing that well. And there's like a photo of Glenn Close. And it's like, what photographer is just like, I'm just going to take a picture of that person standing there. Oh, good. He got a home run. I can make this into the front page of the paper. It's the 30s. We have nothing else to write about.
Yeah, no, there's nothing at all going on to be concerned about. Not anywhere.
Not anywhere at all. Everything is fine. It's all just baseball.
Yeah. So, there couldn't be anything going on like anywhere, I don't know, Europe that could be concerning in the 30s.
Not at all.
No, I mean, look, this is before the days of the 24-hour news cycle. I think we would have known had there been the 24-hour news cycle and internet and all that. Everyone would have known what was going on in Europe. So,
okay, so aside from that, so we have
I always bring it back to Nazis. Jeez.
Hey, no, I mean that's what I was getting at. It's just like. Hello, seriously? I feel like all of these newspaper segments, there needs to be like a moment of somebody just being like, where's the sports section? And then like finding that.
Yes. Yes.
Flipping pages, just being like, has anyone seen the sports? Because the rest of the newspaper is really depressing. But
no, you're right though. But like the same thing could have been achieved by showing people reading the paper, showing that it's the inside of the paper where you would find such a piece. Except not really, because you wouldn't find the piece about like, Glenn Close in the crowd at the
yeah. Is that Glenn Close?
Yeah.
And so but I feel like also, as fast as those moments are where it's just like, how the hell do we get through all this stuff? There are so many moments that are so slow.
Yes.
That drag on. I was fighting to stay awake by the end of this movie. And at the end of it, I was like, is The Natural bad? Is this movie that I've heard of all of these years as being like one of the great baseball movies a bad movie? And like, I get that there's a lot of things about this movie that are heralded as being fantastic. The cinematography, the score. I mean, the cast is fantastic. But I think that, it's an adaptation from a novel.
A 1952 novel. So
a 1952 novel.
Put that in context.
And so I'm just wondering, is it just a bad adaptation? And like it's just unbalanced. I don't know. And also it's like, it's directed by Barry Levinson, and it's like, but Barry Levinson's good. I know this is his second movie.
It's his second movie. His first being Diner, which is
great.
It's great, but first of all, like Diner was familiar material to him because it was like, based on, his younger days, and it like, set in Baltimore. Not that they need to be set in Baltimore, because he also, like, after The Natural, he directed Young Sherlock Holmes, which is great.
Right. And then, Good Morning Vietnam, Rain Man.
Well, I mean, Tin Men is fantastic. Tin Men's underrated. Rain Man. Avalon is one I haven't seen Avalon in forever, and I remember that being really good.
I don't know if I've ever seen Avalon.
Bugsy. I mean, I'm looking down the list. Yeah, it's funny because like he has got this string of like, in my opinion, great movies. Then he hits like a couple of, he does like Toys, which is weird. Jimmy Hollywood, which I've seen part of.
But Sleepers and Wag the Dog are both amazing.
Yeah. Sleepers is good. The book is, wow.
Sleepers is intense.
Wag the Dog is fantastic, right? Yeah. But then it's like Sphere.
Right. And then the rest of them are, there's like Bandits and stuff like that.
It's here and there. Oh, I forgot he did Envy. I like that movie. It's stupid, but I like it.
That's the Ben Stiller, one of the Ben Stiller, Jack Black ones.
Where they invent the spray that makes dog poop disappear.
Right. What a weird plot.
It's just very weird, but yeah, I don't know. Man of the Year was another good one there.
Well, Man of the Year, I think, was very of its time.
Yes.
It was very much just like, could a late night person, who comments on politics become president? That kind of thing.
It was,
and with Robin Williams, I mean, how could it be too bad, right?
I thought it was good. If I remember correctly,
I remember seeing it.
I feel like it kind of, it was not sure if it wanted to be a satire or a thriller. It kind of felt like a little mishmash.
A thrill tire.
But a thrill tire, exactly.
I could tell that you were trying to like riff on it and improve upon it, but you're just like, nope, that's the one.
Nope, a thrill. No, I was trying to think of an example of Duel. That would be a thrill. No, actually, it wasn't a satire. So no. Anyway, getting back to Barry Levinson. So The Natural. I cannot imagine why I would have liked it back in the day. It's very, I'm just like, I don't care.
It's really interesting how in the 80s, and I need to check on one thing really quick to see what year one movie came out. Okay, 1992. Exactly. So, there was definitely this fascination in the 80s and early 90s with, old-timey baseball. And because I was looking up The Babe. Because it's like, The Babe is 1992. We've already mentioned 8 Men Out, Field of Dreams. There's this, and also, I mean, A League of Their Own. I would also it's certainly very different, but
no, but it's like it's about baseball. It's a true story about baseball. And then League of Their Own is a great baseball movie. It has a lot of I love the baseball scenes in that.
Oh, a zillion %. It's great. And the League of Their Own Hulu series is fantastic.
Oh, Prime
series? Is it Prime?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Prime series. It's fantastic.
I've seen a few episodes of it so far. And
it's really good.
Yes.
Oh my God. The last episode had me crying.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the warning. I can't handle that these days. I can't. I'm trying to avoid emotions as much as possible.
It was a good cry.
Which is why The Natural was a good movie to watch, because I didn't care.
Yeah,
well, I cared about Wilford. I wanted to care. I wanted to care about like Pops and everything, but like I didn't care about Roy, and I was like, what happened to him, like when he got shot, and like, are we just gonna forget about that? And I know. All right,
what is the dude doing for 16 years?
Confession time. Yeah, not solving who shot him. Shit.
Yeah, right.
Confession time. All right. You were talking about how you were struggling to stay awake. I couldn't. I did not watch them. I watched about half of the movie when like you signed on before and I was watching TV and that was the first time I was watching that since the first time I saw it.
Okay.
So, I did not watch
So what was
the
happening?
movie.
What was happening when you've wrapped up?
When I wrapped up,
had he been poisoned yet?
No, he had not been poisoned yet.
Wow.
It was no, I'm telling you, it was right after the bookie reveals that he was tells the whole story at dinner. That was it, which was good because I was coming into this thinking like, do we ever find out why Barbara Hershey shot him? And do we ever where is Barbara
at that moment
Hershey?
I remember just being like, okay, I see what's going on. And then, okay, so did you even wait a second?
Did
you get to the point
on Wikipedia?
Did you get to the point where Iris shows back up?
No.
Oh my God!
I've seen it before.
Okay,
I know, it's
okay.
Ridiculous.
So okay, but I know you haven't seen it in a long time. So let me just kind of guide you through how this goes down. You know, they reconnect and they're spending time together, and he asks like, do you have any children? And she was like, I have a son, a teenager. And then you're just like doing the mental math and everything, and then
is he like me?
Is he like me? Exactly. And she's like, but he's never met his father, who lives in New York, and it's the New York Knights, so that he lives in New York. And then you're just like, oh shit. But then you think about it, and it's just like the two of them were teenagers when the last time they saw each other, which was also a moment where like she's pulling him close in a barn, and it's kind of like oh really? And like they're about to like sleep with each other for the first time. It's very clear. And so it's like, oh, literally their first time having sex ever.
The bat wasn't the only Wonder Boy.
Yeah, right. But it's just like, well, first of all, yeah, of course, he's very virile. That's no surprise to anybody. It's Robert Redford, and he's, an amazing baseball player. Like, certainly there's nothing that this man can't do, which includes impregnating someone just by looking at them. And I think that, it's like, I don't know if anybody really thought too much about like how that all really would have happened. Like no one brings up the fact that it's like, oh, their first time ever sleeping with anybody, because they know each other from when they're children. They're like childhood sweethearts.
And I'm sorry, hold a moment here. So he gets shot. How old is he when he gets shot? Because it's 16 years later after that.
Yeah, so he's probably he probably comes back when he's in his like 30s. Because I'm sure that he's supposed to be, not very convincingly, like 19 or something when he goes off to try out for the Cubs.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. So it says 16 years later. All right, in 1939. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
So-
19. He's 19
Oh,
when
he's
he goes to
19?
try out. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
According to Wikipedia.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he just he's like completely off the grid for 16 years. And like, I just don't understand. Like, okay. I think that here's where we start to get into not only just like how would we like bring this movie back or whatever, which is what we do on this podcast, but like, you know, what are the problems that this movie has that leave us wondering where maybe something new could help us solve this problem. And I'm just going to go ahead. For me, of course, there's something that could be in that, like, you know, the missing 16 years. You know, it starts where he's been shot and then, like, you know, ends when he gets kind of called to go try out for to go play for the Knights. And so that's one thing. But the other thing that I was thinking is just like, I'm fine. Just remake this movie, but like make the pacing better. Remove some of this stuff. I feel like we could do with way less plot. There's too much going on. Either get rid of Gus or the judge. We don't need both of them.
Loose remake. Yeah. And I think, and you know, and I genuinely think like you could do a loose remake of this. And I was trying to think of like, oh, do you switch it to other sports? And I'm sure there's a way you could do it, but just a very loose, like, I don't even know if you need the whole like Wonder Boy bat thing, and you just have someone who's like supernaturally good at at their sport, and have them, you know, kind of publicly humiliate a pro.
Yeah.
And have them, you know, you can still have them get shot.
Right.
You could potentially show what happens over those 16 years. And you could have them and then, you know, you have them make their comeback. Actually, going back to the whole 16 years things, I don't mind. I think it's that we never find out. I kind of don't mind the whole mystery of it. I that was actually one of the more interesting parts of it for me was, but
if it would have been solved by Iris being like, where did you go? That was you just vanished for 16 years. And
right.
for him to, if he said it's too hard to explain, I would have been like, okay. You know,
at least they addressed
thanks for addressing that.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. But I could see a remake of this. I could see a remake set if you're gonna keep it with baseball. I mean, you could find, you know, it opens up the opportunity, like your characters you could have more diverse casting. You know, like Roy Hobbs doesn't have to be Roy Hobbs.
Right.
So, like, and you could do this, you could really...
Although it's a really good baseball player name.
It's really just, like, fill in the, you know, the character right there. It's just who is the character that is so good that they threaten the establishment. They threaten the, you know, the hierarchy, and but you know that they have solid values. I think like that type of, and you of course would have more sports in it. You whatever the sport is, you know, it would you would have more of that sport in it. Like, I don't like watching sports, but I like watching sports in movies.
Okay, so based on the research I was able to do, Dan, do you know when the last baseball movie came out?
Oh, the last like big.
I think any.
Like any baseball movie. Okay, hold on. Give me just a moment.
Toss out some titles that are coming to mind.
All right, I think the first one that comes to mind is Hardball, which I know is like 21 years ago. But
Okay.
I'm trying to think more. There was the Bad News Bears remake in 2005 or 2006.
Something
we
like
talked
that.
about it. It's in the archives. So let's see. There's Bad News Bears. There's Moneyball.
Okay. Moneyball is the last baseball movie to have come out, and that was 2014.
Yeah.
And
was that 2014? I thought it was like earlier than that. But
that was 2014.
Yeah. Wow.
That was
Okay.
also the same year as $1 Million Arm with John Hamm. And I think that's a baseball movie.
Yes.
Pretty sure it's
you
a
are.
baseball
He
movie.
goes to,
Yeah.
is it Dominican Republic?
I think he's like a scout or something.
Yeah.
The Scout, which is another great baseball movie. Brendan Fraser.
I've never seen it, but with the whole, celebration of Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. Brendan Fraser, Albert Brooks. It's fantastic.
Diane Wiest, right?
Diane Wiest is.
I know.
Oh my
I know.
God. Diane
I know.
Wiest is so
I
good.
don't
Diane
know
Wiest
how I
plays
haven't seen
his
it.
therapist. It's so amazing.
Love Diane Wiest. Okay.
Love Diane Wiest.
Yes.
So, anyway, so it's been a really long time since a baseball movie was made.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? I mean, Moneyball was great.
Okay. Here's why maybe it's not so weird. I don't think there's as much interest. I mean, there's still interest in baseball. I mean, hell, look, today, so, for those new to the program, I live and teach in Seattle. The Seattle Mariners have made it to the playoffs for the
good for
first
them.
time in a long time. And they had their first playoff game today. It was this afternoon. The governor even proclaimed that people were excused from their afternoon activities, but I don't think that got us the day off. However, we had a pep rally because also homecoming. And after the pep rally, when we went back to class, I had the game on. I put the game on because there were kids who were out because they were watching the game. There were and kids were watching it on their teachers were watching it on their phones. Like, this is a big, the Mariners it's a central part of the culture here. And so it's a really big deal. And I think people are into baseball, but I don't know that baseball movies are as much of a draw as, let's say, I'm trying to think of basketball movies that aren't Space Jam. I mean recent ones. Recent ones.
Yeah.
I think sports movies in general. When was the last sports movie?
Well, that's what I'm wondering too, because I'm thinking about football.
Sorry, I'm going to say non-boxing because I feel like you have boxing movies come out regularly.
Yeah. So I think that, with football, the last one I can think of is arguably not as much of a football movie as much as it is a medical movie, and that's Concussion.
Okay.
I don't know when,
there were a lot of football movies in the aughts because there was The Express, Gridiron Gang, Remember the Titans, of course. But there were a lot of those big, and then there were a lot
Draft
of basketball ones. Yeah, Draft Day. Coach Carter was a big basketball one, and I feel like there was another one with Josh Lucas as a basketball. It was Winning Season, in the aughts, all in the aughts.
Yeah. And I don't know. I can't think of a lot of basketball movies aside from
Love and
what's the
Basketball.
one? Well, Love
White
and
Man
Basketball,
Can't
but
Jump.
I was White
Blue
Man Can't
Chips?
Jump.
Space Jam,
No.
new Space Jam.
I'm thinking of the one with Will Ferrell and Woody Harrelson.
Semi-pro.
Semi-pro, that's it.
Semi-pro. Yeah, it's a funny movie.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a lot of hockey movies recently. Of course, there are some classics, Slapshot being one of them that I think we made. Did we mention that on the last episode? I can't remember.
Paul Newman, yeah.
Paul Newman,
Well, and no,
Isn't
George
it-
Roy Hill didn't. Did George Roy Hill direct
I think
Slapshot?
George
I think
Roy
he
Hill
did.
did do Slapshot.
Yeah. So yeah, hockey movies. There's Slapshot, Miracle, which was the true story, the one of Team USA with Kurt Russell.
Yeah, but I feel baseball movies were definitely more prominent. Sandlot, another one that's kind
early
of
90s.
A throwback one.
Early 90s. It takes place in the 60s, right?
And then in the 90s, you also had
Rookie
Big
of the
League,
Year.
Angels in the Outfield, Rookie of the Year. Yeah, exactly.
All around the same time. Yeah.
Yes. And with Moneyball being the last one so long ago, that was an Oscar movie. It was a really fantastic movie. There was not a lot of gameplay in it because a lot of the gameplay takes place over like a radio essentially, because he doesn't like to watch the games. But I'd still call it a baseball movie as much as I would any other baseball movie. As even though you don't see a lot of baseball happening in Field of Dreams, it's a baseball movie.
It's a good point.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, because I was about to kind of question that, or just not really question it, because it's a personal preference. But like, I guess I don't think of Moneyball as a baseball movie. But yeah, it is as much a baseball movie as, although I would say, all right, okay, here's where I would say maybe not as much as Field of Dreams, because even though Field of Dreams doesn't feature as much gameplay, it is much more about the game and the love of the game. Whereas I feel like in Moneyball, it's more about I don't want to just say the economics of the game, but the science of the game.
Okay. The economics and the science of the game are one component of it, but you also have the story of, Brad Pitt's character started off as a wonder boy. He was, the next great thing.
Go figure, because he's this generation's Brad Pitt, or Robert Redford.
Robert Redford, yeah.
He's also our Brad Pitt.
So you have him, getting this big chance and bypassing a scholarship in favor of, getting onto, baseball team, but ending up shitting the bed. So he's got, no education, becomes a coach or a manager. And it's really about him and, finding his place in this industry while also navigating his place with his family. He has, he's divorced. They have a child together. Spike Jonze plays the ex-wife's new husband, and it's amazing. I know. And
I forgot. I haven't seen that movie since I saw it in the theater. So.
Okay. And so then you have Field of Dreams, which is about somebody who hears voices. I mean, it's Ed Harris's voice. So there's that. We all hear Ed Harris's voice from time to time. And I think that was just because Kevin Costner was married to his wife in it. So, So, but Kevin Costner, hears his voice. He has this relationship with his deceased parents. From his past, where he, has kind of these unresolved things going on. So it's very much a story about family, which I would say Moneyball is similarly, but I think that the family aspects in Field of Dreams are they take you a little bit further away, because you have this whole other thing about James Earl Jones' character, who's this author, and they're trying to ban one of his books, and it's like, he's going on this little quest based on these voices in his head. And yes, baseball is in there in certain moments, and there are baseball players that are about it, but it's it's more about Kevin Costner's unresolved daddy issues. And I think that for Moneyball, it's more about the game than it is about his own personal life, like his family life. Because also in Moneyball, at the end, he's offered a gazillion dollars by, I think, like the Red Sox to go work with them, and he chooses not to.
And doesn't that turn out to be like the Red Sox like championship season?
I think so.
Yeah. No. I guess, you make a good point. I think for me, those movies both also just like Field of Dreams being much older and a movie that I saw much more because it was one of those movies. And when I was, much younger, like middle school and high school, and had time to watch movies, you watch Field of Dreams a few times.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Moneyball came out, the same year we had Chloe. So,
yeah. Well, we
did go see it. That's why I was like,
Moneyball, I think has a great like a rewatchability factor, and I think that there's certainly a lot of room to continue. And I feel like baseball is a really good sport to do movies about. I think that there's something about it where I don't know, there's just so much more behind the inner workings of the game and the personal lives of the players that I don't know, they just kind of come out differently. Plus, I think it's a little different from some of the other sports where, baseball is kind of known where it's like, that guy doesn't look like an athlete, but he sure can pitch. It's like that kind of a thing where it's like you have people who look more just like everybody else. Granted, of course they are athletes, but
I also think
you get a different element from it.
That's also what's nice though about the older baseball movies, because I feel like that was much more true of athletes then. Though even now, like there was somebody in the game today who was like, I think a little like, short and stout, a little like I wasn't really fully.
Oh, is that a teapot?
Yeah, he was a little teapot.
Was it a little teapot?
And yep, he was tipped over and stole third base. Yeah. So no, but like, so I think, yeah, I agree with you there. But I think especially the older baseball movies, I love the coaches, and even you talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman in Moneyball. Just
so good. The manager,
the coaches with the bellies. I think of Major League.
Yeah,
the manager in Major League, which I think baseball works really well on film because you have those moments of stillness that build suspense, but they're also very distinct. It's not like football where everyone's like crouched in and has masks on. And
yeah, there's also something about a dugout,
right? Yeah,
it's
you said
different
that
from just a bench.
Right. Well, yeah, it's you're in the trenches. And I think actually it makes me think of the scene in The Naked Gun when they're you see them all in the dugout, they all start spitting because that was another one that I watched not too long ago. But, they're all spitting, and then the people on the field are spitting, and then the players' wives are spitting. And yeah. So.
Okay. So, all right. I kind of gave my summary of what I would do with it. I know that you kind of added to that a little bit. Did you have anything more that you wanted to say about because you just said essentially a loose remake.
A loose remake for today's audience, like not set back in the 30s.
Yeah.
Modern day, we can lose the whole like, mystical, magical lightning bolt. Like you could still involve the lightning bolt, like that could be there. You could still have something with lightning and like the parent, the kid. You could have that be similar, and it could be baseball, or it doesn't have to be baseball, but just someone who's just that good, and they end up, they end up, out sporting a legend. If it's basketball, you have they win a game of 1-on-1 against Michael Jordan. I don't know what you'd call him, or LeBron. I don't know what you'd call him in this, the dunker. Just something like that, a way to also like spotlight different. You could, do different sports, different games. Have it diverse. Your main character does not have to be male. So you could really just take the basic structure of this story and transfer it and make something that's not only more relevant to today's audience, but also just is more like where you care more. I think we could build up more, like, why should we care about this? Like, Roy Hobbs seems to have everything handed to him. I mean, except for the, yes, he gets shot in the stomach and then poisoned, but otherwise, he just kind of like lands on his feet, and I want to care more about this character. I want to care more about their struggles. I want to see more of their flaws. I want to see like motivations, conflicts. I mean, and you can still bring in the whole gambling thing like that. You know what? Times may change, but some things don't. And we've still got bookies and gangsters and gambling. You could have the same things happen.
Yeah.
So you could do it better.
Yeah.
Like,
so Dan.
So
Dan. Yeah. I think that now would be a great time to resurrect an old segment. And I'm going to do a modified version of this segment.
Oh.
The year is 1984. In that year, did anybody name a boat the Natural or a horse the Natural?
Yes.
Well, I'm saying which one?
Oh, shit. I'm
just going with 1984.
I'm going to say a horse.
Dan, there were 2 horses named the Natural in 1984.
Any boats?
0 boats in 1984 named the Natural. However, there are more boats named the Natural than there are horses named the Natural overall.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that was a tough one. that was a tough one, and I really wasn't. It was a crapshoot, but I just felt like it was more, natural to name a horse the Natural.
Yeah, well, let's give a shout out to one of the horses, the Natural, born in 1984, to parents Quick Draw and Honey Ray, and then the other horse named the Natural, which was born in 1984, to parents Smooth Town and Shadows Cameo.
Oh, man, I love it. Who comes up with these things?
Horse people, man. Horse people. So, Dan, do you want to tell everyone what we're going to be doing on our next episode?
Yeah, so our next episode, we're going to be jumping 10 years in the cinematic timeline to 1994. A multiple Academy Award nominee. I don't know that it won any. Starring one of the great comedic and dramatic actors of our time, Mr. Ralph Fiennes, co-starring Rob Morrow, John Turturro, Mira Sorvino, and Martin Scorsese is in it as well. And I feel like there's another, like David Paymer is in it. Anyway,
you got your David Paymer, you got your Christopher McDonald.
Oh, Christopher McDonald, yeah. So we're gonna be talking about Quiz Show, directed by the one and only Robert Redford.
You got Griffin Dunn in there.
Oh,
you have another George Glass name in there, Timothy Busfield.
Yes. Oh, wonderful, Timothy Busfield.
Also of Field of Dreams.
So yeah. No,
and you know who also acts in this movie?
Who else acts in this movie?
Barry Levinson.
Magnificent. So he he cast a lot of directors in this. Well, and funny about anyway, we'll talk about it on that episode. But yeah, so quiz show. A movie from the great. So talk about movie years, by the way, and we'll talk about. I mean, So we were talking about 1984, which is also the year of. Let me take a deep breath. Ghostbusters, The Karate Kid, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I believe The Neverending Story was that year. Beverly Hills Cop, Amadeus. Like 1984 was a great movie year. 1994 is perhaps better. And Quiz Show is a huge part of that, I think. So I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Me too.
It's been a while, but definitely a movie I've seen many times and have enjoyed. So looking forward to discussing that with you.
Well, Dan, as you are, I don't even know, on your way to try out for the Cubs, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.